Alrighty, welcome ladies and gents. So welcome to kind of like a mini series that I'm doing. I don't really want to do this before, but really I'm just bored out of my mind. So I thought, hey, you know what? I've been getting back into Shadowverse recently, and I believe the 17th card set is coming out now. New card mechanic rally, so rally effects only happen when you play a certain amount of followers. So for example, if you effect that says rally 10, that means 10 followers have to be come into play. Yeah, so even tokens that produce followers are going to be really good. Like that 1-2 Bane card in Shadow, which I don't remember the name of. We can actually check it here. I'm going to be going over the rotation changes in specifically the cards that are going to be leaving and the cards that are going to be coming in. So the set that's going to be removed is going to be the Rebellion, but in rotation as of this set, we're seeing Machina, Control, Amatars, Control, Machina, Control, Amatars. So those are your three main archetypes. You can either be Machina or Control. I think more players will be playing towards a Control style deck, which involves Roach, playing a bunch of these one-cost cards to then get Awakened Gaia, because I believe that's a Natura card, which you pull. Do you pull that with anything? No. This is just used in every deck. This is just a one-cost card that just gives you more cards to cards to play with. Ether recovers one play point, which helps you get this. Blah blah blah. Use Roach, you win the game. Okay, so basic deck, keep bouncing it, and you win. That's, in my opinion, probably what I see the most. I don't really see a lot of Machina Forest, especially since Damien and pretty much the rest of the Machina deck kind of got really screwed. It's good to see that Elf Queen is seeing a lot of play, but then again, this girl's just generally good. 3/2, 3/3 ward, draw card, etc, etc. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Essentially, Control is the name of the game, and we're going to check and see what cards are going to be removed and see if there are going to be any new archetypes that are going to be introduced in this game. So, okay, so these are all the cards that are going to be rotating out. Specifically, the legendary cards are Cleft, which is, well, obviously mainly used for our Machina deck. So Machina Forest getting a little bit of a hit here, losing one of its key components, especially when it's also another one of those cards where it doesn't even have to be played as Machina. It can just be played in decks where, again, you play a lot of cards per turn because that's where all of its effects come from. It's a very decent follower for removal. And again, it supports that whole playing other cards this turn, etc., etc. thing comes into play. Yeah, another lost Machina card. This not only removes an enemy follower, but it also deals face damage if used on the right unit. Cynthia, when she was released, she was actually kind of a menace. But I don't actually see a lot of Cynthias anymore, so probably not too big of a loss there. And this was kind of just a meme. This effect, I mean, it's an 8/6/6 with ambush. You're playing this on 8, which means it's super slow. You get nothing but a leader effect, but the whole thing is, this leader effect wasn't really a big thing until the end of the game, and there weren't too many, like, return back to hand cards that kind of supported it, so this card really didn't see a whole lot of use. Robotic Bagworm is actually a big loss to Machina, since this was a huge, this was essentially the main way of, subtracting one cost card from that playstyle. Never once really saw Daisy Rainbow Archer. Arya's Whirlwind, again, another thing for Control Forest, so hopefully they get some cards that can replace this. Forest Hermit, not really saw that. Malolo was kind of that one card when if you were playing an Evo Forest, then this was definitely part of it. Very easy to proc as well, which is pretty neat. So, you play a one-cost spell, it evolves for free, turn 4, even if you're going first. No one really played this. No one really played that one. Deal damage to an enemy follower, X equals number of times. Oh, number of actions. Okay, so we get another hard removal card that is going to be missed again with Machina. Machina decks are just flooded with cards that's the whole point of their playstyle, but I really feel bad for Damien, because Damien now has nothing to really fall back on. Not really played that. And I think that's everything for Forest. Now, if we go to the Forest list of what we can see in the near future, we can have a look and see what they've got. Apparently, the whole theme with this deck, or this whole pack, is it's Fortune's Hand. So I'm assuming I have had a look at some of these cards and there's a lot of RNG involved. So I guess with Fortune's Hand, it's this whole thing of like you're leaving fate in the RNGesus. And a lot of these cards, okay, you can manipulate RNG in a certain way. With this card, you can, but so can your opponent, and I'll get into it right now. So it's a 3/3/3 Legendary Forest card, which, again, general stat lines, great. Has the added effect of can't be destroyed by effects. Can be damaged, though, so it can't be baned, and it can't be destroyed by Fiery Embrace. But the key thing to note here is its Evolve effect. If at least 3 cards were played this turn, you gain +3/+3. This is extremely easy to proc. 2/1 cost card by turn 5. Let's say you're going first. Turn 5, you play Ether, I think, was it? What's it called? Fertile Ether. You play it, you recover 1 play point, so you actually still have 5 play points. You can play a 2 cost or any number of 1 cost, and then play this card, evolve it, and you have a 3 play point 8/8 on the board. Well, by turn 5, which is insane, to be quite frank. I don't really see you being able to pull this off turn 4 going second. If you could pull this off going second, the player going first has a massive follower to get rid of, and an 8/8 during turn 4, turn 5 is really annoying to deal with. So I personally think this is that in itself makes it a really good card. But it's Enhanced 7. Put a Treacherous Reversal. Is it Treacherous? I don't know how to pronounce things. Keep that in mind. I play Fire Emblem, so pronunciation is never my stronghold. Treacherous Reversal into your hand and banish the follower. So the whole point is you play it, this guy goes away, and instead you get this thing. You banish all cards in play. So you play 7 play points to have a spell in your hand as a 7 cost to essentially remove the whole board. So banish all cards in play. So that's everything. Followers, amulets, whatever. They're all gone. Banish all cards in your hand and deck. So your whole hand is just destroyed. Your whole deck is destroyed. And then it puts 10 copies of the first 10 cards your opponent played in the match. Now, a lot of people are wondering, what if your opponent doesn't play 10 cards? Well, then you're going to have less cards in your deck, which is actually a good thing for you. But the likelihood of that happening is very unlikely. Now, this can be a problem, especially if you verse enemies who play a lot of tokens. So say, for example, if you verse an opponent who plays a lot of fairies. That means your deck is going to be full of fairies if they play it early, of course. Like, again, I'm just speculating. There's so many different scenarios that can come out of this. I personally think this whole legendary card, Wolfred, is just an alternate win condition save. Say, for example, your main win condition isn't going for you. You can just play this guy instead as a 7 and give yourself an alternate win con. I don't know if too many people are going to be playing this as their main win condition because there's so much variety that can happen. Since we have a log in the game, you can actually check to see which cards are played, both you and your opponent. So the disadvantage of you playing it is that your opponent can see exactly or can tell exactly what they're going to be drawing. At the end of your opponent's next turn, the cards in their current hand will be copied into your hand. When you play this, you essentially delete everything and you have 10 cards in your deck of the first 10 cards that your opponent played. It's then your opponent's turn. Your opponent does their turn. Now, this is where the opponent has every control right now for what they play. They will most likely play most of their strongest followers out the way so that they can maintain board control and board space, because whatever they have left is going into your hand. So at that point, it's like they know exactly what you have. They know exactly what you're going to draw. You're essentially an open book to your opponent, and your opponent has to beat you with quote-unquote weaker cards and whatnot in order to, before you reach the victory card. Now, if your opponent is like Runecraft, played a lot of insights, a lot of card drawy cards, that could be a problem. This could be a cool card to be going against that, but again, it's super situational. That I personally think it's just an alternate win con. It's never a main focus. It's just an alternate way to win. But I will say the 3/3/3 body with the evolve effect is pretty nutty. And unless you have some sort of banish or a follower or set of followers that can just do 8 damage to him, this guy's going to be staying on the board for at least one turn. And taking 8 damage to the face is not a nice thing to have. Moving on. That was a lot to talk about, but that card has a lot to go with it. Legendary card number 2, Terraformer Forestcraft. Legendary card. Fusion. Forestcraft followers that originally cost 2 play points or more. Whenever 2 or more cards are fused to this card, gain +2 and draw a card. Fanfare, if at least 2 cards are fused into this card, gain Storm. Then if at least 4 cards are fused to this card, destroy an enemy follower. I personally think this card's pretty good. Yes, it is a bit heavy, but I see it as a very good end game card. And I personally think that Forestcraft has a lot of card draw to, like, this card already, like, draws a card for itself. Like, you're fusing 2 cost cards into it to draw a card and give it and buff it. In a sense, you don't even have to do it at the start of your turn. You can even do it at the end of your turn. Like, say for example, okay, I'm most likely going to be playing this other follower. These 2 followers are kind of useless. I'm just going to fuse them into here. It's a very easy fusion to put in because it's any card that costs 2 or more. And the fanfare effect itself is actually very simple. 4 cards into it. That is a 6 play point 8/4 with Storm. Evolve it, that's 10. Yeah, it's just really good late game, I think. If you have to deal with multiple wards, that can be a problem. So Ward Haven, for example, can be a nightmare for this card. But I personally think that this can see a lot of play. Maybe a 2 of, if you're really wanting to, maybe 3 of, just to, again, if you want to make sure you ensure that face damage. But the fact that, again, it's Storm, it self-buffs itself, it's a hand buff, you draw a card every time you fuse 2. It's not bad. It's not bad because you're not losing too much. You're buffing it. You're buffing it with 2 cards to draw another card. Again, you're also thinning out your deck, which is fantastic. So, moving along. Chipper Skipper is a 4/4/3 gold follower. So, very aggressive stats. Accelerate 1, summon a fighter. Can only accelerate if a follower has played this turn. So, you cannot play this card turn 1, essentially is what it's saying. And it has to be a follower that has played. So you can't play Fertile Ether and then play this to get a 1 play point fighter. So you need to play a 1 play point follower, which, if we look at the rotation right now, of all the 1 play point followers that they've got to play, I mean, Greenwood cards are still in the game, but I don't see a whole lot of support for Greenwood right now. Like, it's kind of past its time, I'd say. Ironback Beetle into this. I don't know. And if you're wondering what a fighter is, it's essentially just a 2/2 follower. So for one cost, you're playing a 2/2, which is pretty good. Whenever you play a card using an accelerate effect, summon a fighter and evolve it. Okay, so a cool thing to do with this is, I mean, if you have 2 in hand, like, play it and play it again. So, like, you play this, so with 5 play points, you play this, and then you play another Chipper Skipper for the accelerate effect. You then get a 4/4 that has rush and evolves, which, again, that could be a thing. Just going to check through the accelerate effects, and there's not a lot. There is not a lot. So maybe this is a Greenwood. Maybe this is a Greenwood card, because this is the only accelerate. Is that the only accelerate card in Forest? Are you serious? Those are the only 2. I didn't hit legendary. Okay, alright. Well, I guess if you include normals as well, then you have accelerate 2 with the droids and accelerate 3, but even so, only 2 accelerates. Okay, okay, I'm only hoping that Forestcraft is getting some sort of extra accelerate cards to go along with it, because otherwise this is kind of sad. But oh well, you never know. And it's also, the cool thing with this is that it can stack. So like if it's like turn 7, you can play, if you're lucky as well, you get 3 of these, you get 3 fucking fighters on the board, which is pretty dope. Again, very situational. But I don't know. I don't know about this one. The stat line's pretty dope, and all this is kind of cool. But I want to see more that kind of support it. Lionel, Woodland Shadow. Accelerate 1, deal 5 damage to an enemy follower. That is kind of nuts. Can only accelerate if an allied follower has evolved this turn. Okay, so this and this complement each other. because this accelerate only activates when something has evolved, and you can only accelerate. Oh, sorry, when you play an accelerate effect, it summons a fighter and evolves it. So you have this. So let me get it straight. You have this. You accelerate with something else. It evolves. Then you can play this, which then accelerates again, and this then summons and evolves again. Okay, so I can kind of see what these two cards kind of synergize well with, but that's pretty neat. It's also essentially another mid-range kind of gameplay where it's like during the evolve phases of the turns of like 4 to 7, you have an extra fucking amazing accelerate 1, deal 5 damage to an enemy follower, which is going to be helpful with dealing with the legendary Wolfred over here, but I digress. Anyway, Fanfare, deal 5 damage to an enemy follower. Then, if the selected follower has 5 defense or less, for damage 4, evolve this follower. Oh, okay. So, you deal 5 damage to something. If you destroy it, this evolves. If it has damage mitigation, like Roly-Poly Mark 1, this still evolves. On each of your opponent's turn, when the opponent plays a follower, deal 10 damage to it. Oh, and only once. During your opponent's turn, if they cannot remove it with an empty board. So what this guy essentially does is if you eliminate your opponent's board and have this guy sitting there by himself or with allies around him, but your opponent cannot react with anything on their board, then this thing essentially just takes fucking play points away from your opponent, which is pretty neat. It is very heavy though. So late game, I don't really see it doing a whole lot. Like, especially with so many cards out there that there are probably a lot of like single target spells that can remove it, or like even like single follower effects. Like even if like a follower is destroyed, there's probably like followers that have Rush Bane or anything, or like smaller followers that can just eliminate these kinds of guys. Like it's essentially a very tall follower that is a nuisance to deal with unless dealt with properly. And I think it can be dealt with how I think Shadowverse is slowly hitting its power creep mode. Though it is a good follower, it's not going to be like it's not amazing. It's not an area. That's just putting that out there, right? Nothing is going to be like that. Okay, so these cards are going to be new to me. Just saying out now. I've seen every gold and legendary of each class, but I've never seen any of the silvers or bronze. So here we have the Optimistic Beastmaster, Forestcraft silver card. Fanfare, put a random follower with Accelerate from your deck into your hand. So Accelerate Forest sounds like it's going to be a new archetype, which that's pretty cool. Whenever you play a card using its Accelerate effect, deal 2 damage to all enemies. Ooh, okay. Okay. 5 cost, 4/5 though is pretty fat though. That is a fat body. Like you're not going to be using the on-board effect until like turn 6, 7 with Accelerate 1s and 2s. So, I mean, unless more cards have Accelerate 1s, because right now we have 2 Accelerate 1 cards right here. But this turn 6 with this, I don't know. It's a strange one, because another thing as well, it says put a random follower with Accelerate. That does mean, yeah, this actually does mean that you are going to be getting an Accelerate card, whether like, let's say, for example, you play this on turn 6. You play that, you then play this, you get a fighter, and then you deal 2 damage to the whole board. Which, that's actually pretty nuts thinking about it, but again, I don't know too much. I'm just speculating different scenarios that can happen here. Lumbering Carapace. Fanfare. If at least 2 of the cards are played this gain +2/+2. If at least 4 of the cards are played this turn, gain 2/2 more and ward. This is in support of playing a fuck ton of cards per turn. This actually can be useful for Control Forest because they are losing some of their core cards. And the whole point of Control Forest is to play a bunch of like a lot of cards in one turn, and this really does support it because you're protecting yourself. For 1 cost, you're getting 5/5 with ward, which is pretty neat. I think it's okay. I think Forestcraft Control Forest will enjoy that. Soothing Spell. Restore 3 defense to an ally. If at least 2 other cards are played this turn, recover 1 evolution point. Again, pretty good for Control Forest. It's cheap. It's 2 cost. If this was 3 costs, that would be a problem, but it is 2 costs, so that's good. Restores 3 defense to an ally. So again, that's anyone, including your leader, or any followers with ward if you want to hold the board. If at least 2 other cards were played this turn, which is very easy to do. Recover 1 evolution point. So again, you get a free evolve. Not bad. I don't think that's a problem. And I like the simplicity of it. Okay, so here we have an Accelerate 1, which is a draw a card. So now Forestcraft has their own insight. Fantastic. And then it's a 4/3/3 with ambush. Don't really like that part of it. I think this card is mainly going to be played for the Accelerate effect, which is, again, it's really good if you're going to be drawing cards, so I like that. What was that card called again? I actually didn't even call it. Reclusive Ponderer. It's a badger. Okay. Blossoming Archer, 2-play point 2/2 Forestcraft with full Evo stacks, no evolve effect. When you play a card with Accelerate, deal 2 damage to random enemy follower. Okay, so it is looking like Accelerate is going to be the quote-unquote archetype for Forest, which, again, that actually does make sense. And the cool thing with the Accelerate effect is that since most Accelerate effects are cheaper, this actually goes hand in hand with all the cards that are, like, playing so many cards. Like, if you've played 4 cards this turn, do this. Like, I think that they kind of work. It does work together nicely. Deep Wood Wolf, Forestcraft, Bronze, Accelerate 1. Again, another Accelerate 1, so return an allied follower or amulet to your hand. So this, and draw a card. So this is essential. Oh, that is adorable. Can I just say that fucking wolf is cute? So it's a 7-play point 3/3 with Storm. When you play an Accelerate, evolve this follower. Okay, so it's a 7-play point 6/6 with Storm, and it's actually an 8-play point 6/6 with Storm because most Accelerates in this deck are going to be 1 cost. Okay. Cool. Neat. I think it can work. Accelerate might need some extra stuff. I don't see it, though, being amazing because, I mean, this is good. This itself is alright with Accelerate 1. This is also good with Accelerate 1 as well. I don't know how many people are going to be playing a Limaga, like a Limaga-based deck including it. I mean, it has Accelerate, but you're counter-playing 2 win conditions, because the whole thing with Limaga is that you're playing a lot of Greenwood Guardians, which essentially means you're not playing anything else. Anyway, Fairy Assault is the 4-play point bronze. Summon 4 fairies, give them rush. Enhance 8, evolve them instead. So it's the fairy version of Goblin Invasion or whatever the fuck that card is called that Dragoncraft users play. Don't really like that. So I don't think you see a lot of use there. The evolve though is pretty neat if you're going to be doing an Evo deck and has the Zeus, but that's actually pretty good because that's 8. You play this turn 8. You play Goblin, whatever that fucking Goblin card is. What is it called? Let's fucking look. Oh, it's a 3-play point card. What am I doing? Goblin War Pack. That's what this thing is called. So, yeah, play this turn 8, play that turn 9. You've already got 9 Evos for fucking Zeus. Wow, okay. I mean, that's kind of nuts. As well, again, you're evolving them all, so they're going to control the board. Alright, and that's everything with Forest. So, what do I think of with Forest? So, in my opinion, I don't really see Machina Forest being as strong anymore. I mean, it did lose some decent cards. And by like decent, I mean like it lost some core cards that, again, I don't know if it's still strong. Like, don't get me wrong. But losing Cleft can hurt. Losing the Bagworm hurts a lot. And the Sniper as well. Again, it gave another Machina card for them to play with. As well as a control decks will miss Aria's Whirlwind. And again, Machina, again, losing Mecha Lance Elf, which again gets you that reach. So I don't think Machina is going to be as strong anymore. Because, again, there's not a whole lot that supports Machina. However, Control Forest and this new archetype of Accelerate Forest, I can maybe get behind. I'm assuming that when the expansion comes out, maybe there's going to be a legendary card that plays around a win condition with Accelerate. I don't think it's going to be one of those ones where it's like, you know, if you've played 10 Accelerates this game, you win the match. Like, I want there to be some sort of like really satisfying bonus when playing all these Accelerates, which these cards, again, they synergize well with each other, but there's not There's not a real purpose. Like, Burial Rites got it. What else has these other things as well? Like, Destroying Trees has it. Gaining Shadows. I mean, fucking Shadowcraft always already had that, but, you know. I personally think that Forestcraft, it's alright. I don't really see a lot of Forest at the moment. But we're going to be seeing a lot more roaches. So, Control Forest still has its tools in the Accelerate format, but I'm really curious to see if anyone is going to be ballsy and, like, crazy enough to make a pure Accelerate deck. I don't think that's going to be really a thing. But that'll be interesting to see what people can come up with. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Forestcraft. Big sad to see a lot of pretty key cards going to be leaving for certain archetypes. Machina Forest is probably going to die. Control Forest is going to be the main focus, as well as maybe a new archetype in the upcoming future. But anyway, if you enjoy this, I will be posting Shadowcraft's deck list, or like Shadowcraft's new rotational review, just a second. So see you guys then.